Welcome back to the second hour of the Mike McFeely Show on the mighty 790 KFGO. And something that has been out there and being debated nationally and getting a lot of talking time in other forums has been immigration and the idea of immigration reform and what our congresspeople and our president, what they want to do with immigration. And we haven't really gotten to it on this program. I've sort of been waiting for the right opportunity to get the right people in to have that conversation and start that conversation. And I know that I've found the right people to have this conversation to get the ball rolling on immigration and where this country should be going in terms of immigration reform. I want to welcome into the program Pastor Peter Schmidt of Faith Lutheran Church. You've been there since 1990, I believe.
That's
Pastor
right.
Schmidt, isn't that
yes.
right? Wow.
A long time.
That's a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to you, of course. That's a lot. You're very successful. I also want to welcome in somebody very special. She has a great story to tell. Her name is Grace Nagbe, and she has quite a story to tell about being an immigrant to this country and being a success and wanting to continue to be a success in the great United States of America. Grace, welcome to the program.
Thank
so good
you.
to see you. You bet. So let's talk about this. Let's start with you, Pastor Schmidt. Where do we need to go in this country? And what do we need to do when it comes to, and very simple question to start, what do we need to do with immigration in this country? Because I think we all agree, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Tea Party, whatever, that the system is broken as it stands now.
That's right. I think that we start by realizing that we are a nation of immigrants. There's only a very few people, Native Americans, that maybe can claim that this is their land forever. But the rest of us came from somewhere. Lots of people came from Europe, and people have come from every continent. And we're a nation of immigrants. We've had two kinds of immigrants, basically, economic immigrants and political ones. My grandparents, all four of them, were economic immigrants from Scandinavia. They came to this country because they heard they could have a better life here. They'd have more opportunity. They could build a better life, and they were welcomed. And many of the people in our region are from that same part of the world. So we are a nation of immigrants. We should care about this, and we do care about this. But over the time, our immigration system has really kind of been flawed, and the flaws have grown. We have a broken system. And as you mentioned, Mike, everyone agrees that this is not dividing people along political lines at all. This is something that Republicans and Democrats all agree. We got to find a way. The time to do it is right now. We can't let the injustices continue. Our immigration is rooted in our values as a nation. We believe in hard work. We believe in the dignity of each individual, and we want to have a system that's fair and just.
So then what's the path forward? Because when I look at immigration today, I look at there are many people in this country, both legally and illegally, and I look at the system and say, we need to find a path to citizenship. And I know that's the cliche. I know that's the one that's out there that everybody's having a bird about or not having a bird about. But I look at it and say, look, many of these people are in our country already. They're here. They're Americans in many ways. They have jobs. They have families.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They've had children in this country. And so if they have been here for a year or two or 5 or 6 or 10, then I believe, in my opinion, we need to find a pathway forward to allow those people to become citizens.
Absolutely. And it's not an amnesty kind of thing where we're sort of overlooking some indiscretion. It is something that would bring justice and reunite families. We have so many families that are separated because some family members are in this country and others are back home. And, you know, our country's built on the solid foundation of families that are integrated, that are intact. That's one of the reasons, is to bring family members back together again and to have a path to citizenship that isn't just given out, but it's earned, but at least it's clear. And you can stand in line and know just what is going to be required. Right now, that is not the case. People don't know where the line is, and people don't know what they need to be doing in order to qualify.
No, there's a bill going through the United States Congress right now that's actually being debated, and there's amendments, and there's all this other stuff. But it would allow a path to citizenship. And,
Yes.
and I think the Republicans want maybe more border security. They want more guarantees on the border. They can debate that in D.C. But there are things, as you said, Pastor, you're not giving away citizenship. You're not waving a magic wand saying, okay, everybody here has amnesty forget it. We're not going to. You don't have to meet any criteria. They're not saying that.
No, they're not.
There's criteria in the bill that's there, which again to me is a logical solution, is it not?
Absolutely. One of the encouraging things for me is that the labor movement has really been behind this. The AFL-CIO has been behind this because they see the abuses of people who come without the right documentation, and they are abused as laborers here, even though they perform a really important service. They are often taken advantage of. And so the labor unions are wanting to have a system that, again, is fair for all people.
I think the other side of it is, and you touched on this as well, Pastor, is that there's a human side to this. We can talk all we want about numbers and economics and policy and politics and all these things, but there's also a human side to it, that the people who are immigrating to this country are indeed human beings, whether they're from Liberia, whether they're from Mexico, whether they're from Argentina, they're human beings. And I think it's the moral choice and the moral obligation of this country to make sure that these human beings can become citizens of the greatest country on earth and have their opportunity to become whatever the heck they want to become.
Absolutely. I think any policy like this has to look at both realms of information. You have to look at all the data, all the statistics. You have to compare and think and sift and sort that. But if you miss out on the actual human story, you're missing half of what's important. That's why I'm here today, really, is to tell our perspective on that.
And I'm going to welcome Grace into the program here in just a moment. Grace, hang on. You'll get the microphone in just a moment. But I want Pastor Schmidt to tell his story because from what I understand in our brief conversation before we went on the air, Pastor, you raised a couple of Vietnamese children. Is that correct?
That's right.
Tell that story because you have a real life, real person story to tell about immigrants coming to this country.
When in the 1980s, we raised two boys from Vietnam. Their families were American sympathizers during the war, and so things were not easy for their families, and the future that these boys faced was not bright. And so their families helped them escape from Vietnam, and they were in a refugee camp in Indonesia. And then we had been foster parents already, and actually we did it again after we had these boys, but we decided we wanted to welcome two of these. They came through Lutheran Social Services Unaccompanied Minors Program, and they came to our house as foster children, different from other foster children. Usually, for 32 years we've had teenage foster kids, but mostly they're kids with various diagnoses and social problems. These boys were healthy psychologically, but boy, did they have cultural adjustments because they came at the age of 12 or 13 and did not speak English. And they did not know our country or our system at all. And they came to us in Bemidji, Minnesota in the middle of the winter in February. They'd never experienced anything that cold. Man. I remember this day when I was driving them into town and they asked me the question, well, why is that area over there just all flat and no trees? And everywhere else you see, there's trees. And I said, well, that's the lake. That's Lake Bemidji. And they were like speechless. And they said, there's cars on it. And this is something that they had never, ever, they could not conceive that water could freeze to that degree that people could drive their car out and fish on the lake. So they came into an alien environment, really, and it was difficult. They... In their culture, women and the voice of women is so different from men. And so many times we had issues where they would hear something from my wife and they would just not really hear it, not really pay attention. But if I spoke, it had impact with them. And the other thing that was really clear is our children, we had three children that were younger than these two boys from Vietnam. And so they came assuming that as the older children, they could boss our kids around. Guess what? Our kids didn't assume the same things. And so we had lots of those kind of conflicts and domestic conflicts all the time in the house as they began to understand that in our country, we value the voice of women and we value children of each age, and the older ones do not have absolute authority over the younger ones. So we had lots of those kinds of issues. even as they learned the language and as they went to school. And it was fun. We had hilarious times, too, in mistaken understandings of words and so forth. It was really a good time. We saw them blossom.
Has become of those children today?
They are, both of them, quite productive citizens. They make a lot of money. They have the American dream. But they don't live in the North Country anymore. No surprise. One of them lives in Phoenix, and he went to the Detroit Lakes Vocational Technical College, and he went to the South and started working in a place that installs only brakes and mufflers, kind of a specialty sort of a garage. And now, after some years, he is the owner and manager of 8 different places in a certain chain of stores that does brakes and mufflers. He hires people and fires people and manages 8 different stores. So he has a big contribution to make.
That's the epitome of the American dream right there. You
Isn't
come
that
from
something?
a different country and you have your own business and you're the one in charge. You have your own place in the world. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Immigrant people often are the first to see the opportunities that we have in the U.S. Sometimes our own citizens who grow up here just miss the opportunities. They don't see that. They aren't challenged, or they haven't had the background that helps them see that they can do virtually anything they set their mind to, and the resources are available.
I don't know if this is true, Pinto, but I just received a text message saying that you ate 6 hamburgers today at the KFGO picnic.
Who sent that?
You don't need to know. 6 hamburgers, really? 6 hamburgers.
I was hungry.
Wow. So I could have cooked many fewer hamburgers than I did.
Many.
And
6 is not
and
many.
been less grease-coated than I am.
Maybe a few
If you would
less.
have had only 3 hamburgers instead of 6.
I was hungry.
Wow.
Lay off.
I'm sorry. It's just
Lay off
pathetic.
me.
Our guest in studio on the Mike McFeely Show this afternoon, the 3 o'clock hour, are Pastor Peter Schmidt of Faith Lutheran Church in Fargo and Grace Nagbe, a recent graduate of West Fargo High School. And we're talking about immigration in this country and where we need to be in terms of immigration policy. And I let Pastor Schmidt have the microphone for the first 15 or 20 minutes of this hour, Grace. So I'm going to allow you and have you engage in conversation. First of all, welcome to the program. Welcome to KFGO.
Thank you.
So tell us your story. You just graduated from West Fargo High School. I know you came to this country as an infant when you were 2 years old. Is that correct?
Yep.
From Liberia, an African nation. Tell us your story. How did Grace Nagbe get here? What have you done since you've been here? And I know why you want to stay, because it's the best place in the world to be. But tell us your story, Grace.
Okay. Well, I'm Grace. I'm a Liberian. I was actually born in Guinea. I lived in Ivory Coast, and I was brought up in the U.S. I came here at 2 years old. My dad actually came before us, and he came on a J2 visa, which granted him time to come for school. And with this visa, you're supposed to return back to your country after the given period and stay in your country for 2 years. But because the war that brought him over here was still being fought and everything over that side got worse, the country actually appealed to the U.S. to ask for them to grant us time to stay in the U.S. until things would get better there. And the United States did agree to keep us, but they did not give us the extension on our visa, which then led us to being undocumented because of the negligence in extending our visa. We came actually through Durham, North Carolina, where my dad went to Duke University, and we lived there for a little bit, where I started Head Start. I actually started school a little bit earlier than I was supposed to. And after that, I completed that program and was automatically put in the first grade because I took a exit exam from Head Start, which skipped me kindergarten because I was performing at a first grade level. So I actually ended up going a little bit further. After that, we moved to Wilmington, North Carolina for a little bit. And so those are the 2 places I lived in North Carolina. And I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where I've been all my life. That's the place I know to be home. I went to all the schooling. I went there from 2nd grade all the way up to 9th grade. till I moved to Fargo, which I went to 10th, 11th, and 12th grade at West Fargo High School. So basically our paperwork was like, we always tried. Like, we tried to follow the process and we did what we were supposed to do, but because of like the negligence on, I guess, being illegal or not being illegal, and the people who they don't want to be here, and like making that decision on who to give their paperwork to, I guess they kind of just neglected us and the fact that we actually had the permission to be here. So it's come to the point where like nobody even thinks I'm not from here anymore. It's come to the point where
sure. I mean, you're acclimated to the United States. You're an American in many people's eyes.
Yeah.
Even though you're an undocumented immigrant, correct?
Yeah, you would never know because I strive for my best and I do what I'm supposed to do, and I find it like kind of discouraging when I see other kids who like have the opportunity and they don't take it because it's kind of like you have it free but you don't use it. And I graduating from high school, my original plan was to go on and become a pediatrician and get my nurse practitioner degree, in which I would open a clinic in Africa to help the children back over there, which is highly needed, and even the kids in America are highly needed here. So that's my dream, but as of this point, I can't really go on much further than where I am. So
because you're undocumented, you can't legally work. Is that correct? And,
yeah.
and you can't start college, even though what was your grade point average at West Fargo when you graduated? Do you know?
My grade point average was about 3.5. I originally kept around, I tried my best to keep around like a 4.0. That kind of declined my 10th grade year when I actually did try to start working and help my family out. So like battling that, I kind of declined to a 3.0 area.
3.5 is just fine, guys.
Yeah.
You're doing just fine. I need to cut you off. Can you stick around for another segment, guys? Can I keep you for 15, 20 more minutes? Welcome back to the Mike McFeely Show. It is 3:35 in Fargo Moorhead on the mighty 790 KFGO. And I owe an apology to West Fargo because I was saying that Faith Lutheran Church was in Fargo. It is indeed in West Fargo. And you don't want to tick off those Packers. I know that. I'm a longtime sports writer, Pastor Schmidt, and you don't want to tick off Packers. I've learned that. Okay, so I apologize to everybody, to the congregation of Faith Lutheran Church and to the city of West Fargo itself. I apologize. I misplaced Faith Lutheran. Our guests here for one more segment on the Mike McFeely Show are Pastor Peter Schmidt of the aforementioned Faith Lutheran and Grace Nagbe. Grace is a young woman who just graduated from West Fargo High School, although because of a mix-up in paperwork, a mishandling of paperwork, she is an undocumented immigrant, which means that even though she graduated from West Fargo High School with a 3.5 GPA, and even though she is completely assimilated to American culture, and she is an American in every way, shape, or form except for a piece of paper, she's facing some roadblocks. Her and her siblings are facing roadblocks because they can't work and they can't really continue their college studies. And in fact, Grace, you were telling us during the break that you had an opportunity for a college scholarship out of West Fargo High School, and you couldn't take it, or you were turned down for it because of your undocumented status, correct?
Correct.
So what do you want to see happen? And I know that you're a young woman and that you don't maybe you do understand all the nuances of Congress and what a mess Washington, D.C. is. But what do you want to see happen for the Grace Nagbes of the world and everybody else who, dare I call you a dream child, because you are fulfilling the American dream right now in this country, or trying to?
I would like to see more of a guideline, like not just the broad look at everybody who is an immigrant. I like to see more of a, like, if you don't want us to be citizens, like give us a way that we can like work and like process in the U.S. and actually be a part of society, because once we do, we actually contribute and help for the greater good. We don't like go against the U.S. citizen and what they stand for. So I like to see more of like, just give us something. If we have to qualify, if we're staying out of trouble, if we're doing what we're supposed to, if we're contributing, why not like give us a future.
With the end goal being you want to be a United States citizen, correct? You want to be an American. You want to take that oath of
Correct.
citizenship and say, I am an American citizen.
Correct.
And I can tell by talking with you, I can tell by looking at your bio here that you would be a benefit to this nation. You would be a positive for this country. You and many hundreds of thousands or millions of others have much to contribute to the United States of America. You want to be a pediatrician, for God's sakes. When I got out of high school as somebody born and raised in Minnesota, I wanted to be a sports writer. I mean, how noble is that? That's not noble. That's not noble at all. You want to be a pediatrician and maybe someday go back to your home country or some other country in Africa and help kids with what you know, right?
That's right. And being that I was raised here, it's all I know. So I'm always, standing for the U.S. and doing what I'm supposed to do. So I feel kind of discouraged.
And you're the youngest in a group of siblings that have had a similar thing happen to them, where your older sisters and brothers have graduated from high school and had received scholarship opportunities they were not able to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Grace. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying, and my oldest brother has been out of school for almost like 8 years now. He just goes on and does what he can, like around the community and helping, because it's like he has a talent with cars. So he does a lot of that kind of work, but it's nothing that can help him out. He's still struggling to help himself while thinking about others.
Don't we, Pastor Schmidt, again, as a nation, have a moral obligation? I think that we do have a moral obligation to find a way forward with this to help people. Grace comes from a nation that was embroiled in a nasty civil war, and there are millions of other citizens around this world, multi-millions of people who are just in bad places, in situations not of their own doing. They have nothing to do with it. They're just people who want to live their lives, but they're caught in nations that are just ugly right now.
Through no fault of their own, many people are stuck in places that are dead-end places, and they see the U.S. as a place of opportunity where there's an open-ended feeling, and where people who want to work hard and save can accomplish something and make a good life for themselves. And so we really are trying to find a pathway to citizenship for 11 million aspiring Americans who are here already and already making contributions. Like my two boys that I raised, they probably contribute more in income tax than I make as an income because they are quite successful, and they love this country, and they are generous, and they are helping others. And that's the nature of those two boys. And they deserve that path, and all these immigrants really deserve a path to citizenship, and that any of these decisions get regulated by data, a data-based approach to labor and the market shortages that we might be having, and not other things that are irrelevant, like the whims of employers or the things that have been historically in the past shaping this discussion. We also really feel that we have to have a rational and operational control of our borders. We can't just take down the borders and let anything happen. But it should be rational. It should be based on overall policy that is integrated and makes sense, and a way that employers can be held accountable so that they are not misusing and abusing workers. We want to respect workers' rights, and those are some of the key components of immigration reform that need to be attended to. Also, those that are involved in temporary worker programs, I don't think we're trying to expand the number, but they need to be improved and be made more fair.
Grace, when you look at America, and again, as an immigrant, do you see opportunity? Is that when somebody says the United States of America to you, what do you think of?
I think of home, and I think of somewhere where I can be like more than I would have been if I were back in the situation that we came from. I think that is a place that everyone sees as opportunity and should be given the opportunity, and those that have the opportunity that don't take advantage of it are like putting it to waste. So I see it as home, as a place that I would like to like improve and make better so other people can call it home.
Would you have had the same opportunities in your young life back in your home country than you're having in the United States right now?
Not at all. I probably wouldn't be alive right now. Actually, we actually had to escape a lot of, threats to our life coming here, and I feel that for them to send us back to a place that we never even known in the first place would be kind of like killing innocent people because here is like life. It gives us an opportunity, but there, if you're not running away from something, you would just die just sitting there. So I feel like that's just not right.
We just have a couple minutes left, Pastor. I need to ask you, because I failed to allow you to tell us what your second son was doing, who came from Vietnam. And I don't mean to shortchange him. So what is he, if he's paid more income taxes than you make in a year, I want to know what the heck he's doing.
Well, I'll tell you. I told you the one was in Phoenix, and the second one lives in San Jose, California. He is a whiz at computer work. He works in an area called firmware, which I guess is between software and hardware. He is.
I've not heard of that before.
I haven't either. And he gets hired by large corporations who have huge computer systems, and they may have problems, and they want to change certain things and start new capabilities, and they hire him and they say, we anticipate it'll take this long. It'll take you 8 months to do all the remapping and redoing. And so what Huynh does is he actually brings a cot and he sleeps there. And he works 20 hours and sleeps 4 and works 20 hours. And it's crazy. And instead of taking 8 months to get the job done, he does it in 4 or 5 months. And so he is very wealthy. And
they pay dearly for those 3 months, don't they?
They pay. They do. Because he really knows. And he has sort of his own little Boy Scout troop, other small children of Asian refugees. He brings them together for kind of cultural experiences, and he makes them speak their home language. But also helps teach them the English equivalents and takes them to experiences. He does this because he cares about this country, and he is really making a great contribution.
Cool. Grace, thank you for coming by today. Good luck to you. Please keep us updated on what's happening with your life. Could you do that?
Yeah.
And Pastor Schmidt, thank you for coming too. Great conversation.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Pastor Peter Schmidt of Faith Lutheran Church in West Fargo, and Grace Nagbe, a recent graduate of West Fargo High School. Numbers are 237-5948, 880-5346, studio at KFGO.com. When you hear a story like Grace's, okay, somebody who came here as a 2-year-old, worked hard, established herself and her family in this country, through no fault of her own or her family's, they have become undocumented immigrants, but yet she's a high school graduate. She has big dreams. She's clearly very bright. Just speaking with her and finding out that she has a 3.5 GPA, which is much higher than my GPA was in high school. I'll tell you that much. Don't we owe it to the Grace Nagbes of this world, as I asked before, to find a way for her to stay in this nation legally and become a citizen and help this nation become even more productive than it already is? She's not going to be a drag on anything. Grace Nagbe's not going to bring this country down. She's not going to be taking welfare or food stamps. She wants to work. She wants to get a college education. She wants to get a job. She wants to be a pediatrician. She wants to make this country and her home country better. Why can we not find a path to citizenship for her? What's wrong with her? There's nothing wrong with her. She's a typical American kid, except that she's not an American citizen. What's your opposition to that? We go to Cindy in Moorhead. Hey, Cindy, you're on the Mike McFeely Show. Go ahead.
Hi, and thank you for taking my call. I wanted to I'm part of a group called North Dakota for Fair Immigration, and we found that 70% of North Dakotans agree with your position that we need to find a pathway to citizenship for people. But I want to talk a little bit about what the creating a pathway and not dealing with this issue is. First of all, 15% of all immigrants have undocumented family members. As a Mexican American born in this country, that applies to me, and that applies to millions of people. There are about 5 million citizen children born to one or both of their parents being undocumented who are separated from their parents, sometimes permanently, because their parents are removed or deported out of the country. And those children are going to be, they're going to have a lot of problems because they don't have access to their parents in life. And it creates a climate of fear in this country for all immigrants. We create a permanent black market for human trafficking, slave labor, and other labor abuses like we saw with the Cast 23, where we had people from India that were running away from being victims of human trafficking that ended up here in in Cass County. And those kinds of things make it more difficult for people to report crimes. If you're an undocumented person here and you're a victim of a crime or you witness a crime, you're going to be a lot less likely to call the police and report that as a result of the fear that you have that you're going to be sent away. Finally, I wanted to say that this North Dakota for Fair Immigration group, we're going to be delivering letters to Senator Heidi Heitkamp. So if people want to share their stories, as your two very brave and sincere guests did today, they can send an email of their story. They just have to be North Dakota residents and state their name and tell their story and send it to cindy@fmppp.org. And we will share those with the Senator because there is a lot of support for dealing with this issue in the state.
All right, Cindy, why don't you throw that email out one more time, please?
Cindy, CINDY, @fmppp.org.
Okay. All right, Cindy, thank you. Thanks for the information. Appreciate that. Let's very quickly go to Tom in Bismarck. Tom, you have about 1 minute to make your point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just calling Tom Richter. I'm the president, North Dakota FL-CIO.
Yes.
And I just wanted to state that, the pastor earlier said that the labor community supports immigration reform, but also so does the Chamber of Commerce. They see the need for legitimate reform. Just recently, the Congressional Budget Office did a study on it, and they also said that over the first 10 years, it would save $175 billion and up to another $700 billion over the next 10 years. It's time for reform, and the time is now.
All right, Tom, thank you. You make a great point that not only does labor in this country support immigration reform, but an organization as conservative as the United States Chamber of Commerce does as well. And so it's coming from both sides. It has to happen. We've gone too long in this country with just trying to piece things together and figure things out. We need to make it happen. We need to get past this fear that we have, this fear of people from other places and people with different skin tones coming to this country. We are a nation of immigrants. We'll always be a nation of immigrants. My grandparents were immigrants. They came over on the boat. I'm proud of that. I'm a productive citizen, sorta, right? Others can be too. This is the Mike McFeely Show. Stick around.